February 28, 2026. The desert night over the Persian Gulf is silent, but the silence feels wrong. Captain Daniel Mercer sits in the cockpit of his strike fighter, the dim glow of the instrument panel reflecting across his visor. The carrier deck far below rocks gently on the dark water. Around him, the engines of other aircraft growl like restrained animals waiting to be unleashed. The ship beneath them is the USS Abraham Lincoln CVN-72. Mercer has flown combat missions before counter-terror raids, patrol flights, tense intercepts over Syria, but tonight feels different. Tonight feels final. A red light blinks across the cockpit console. Mission data uploaded. He exhales slowly. The target coordinates appear on the screen, deep inside Iran. Across the carrier deck, yellow-jacketed crew members sprint between aircraft. The wind tears at their uniforms as jet engines howl louder. F-18 strike fighters line the deck in a perfect row, their wings folded like predators crouched before the hunt. In the ready room earlier, the briefing had been short. No speeches, no politics, just maps, satellite images, and a single sentence from the commander. At 2:17 local time, we strike. Mercer tightens his grip on the control stick. The world doesn't know yet. News stations are still debating sanctions and diplomacy. In Washington, D.C., politicians are sleeping. In Tehran, the city lights glow peacefully beneath a winter sky. But the war has already begun. A voice crackles in Mercer's headset. Strike package Alpha, stand by. The deck lights shift from red to green. One by one, the aircraft ahead of him launch into the darkness. The catapult slams the first jet forward, fire exploding from its engines as it disappears into the night sky. Mercer watches it vanish, then another, and another. The deck vibrates under the thunder of military power. He glances at the photo taped inside his cockpit canopy. His wife, his daughter, 7 years old. He presses the throttle forward. Outside, the catapult crew signal him into position. The fighter locks into the launch shuttle. The engines scream, Alpha 6 ready. A pause, then the calm voice of the launch officer. Godspeed. The catapult fires. Mercer's jet rockets forward into the freezing darkness over the Persian Gulf. Within minutes, dozens of American aircraft are climbing toward Iran. Missiles armed, bombs locked, radar silent, and hundreds of miles away. Iranian air defense operators are just beginning to see strange echoes on their radar screens. Something is coming, something fast, something they cannot yet stop. And in the cockpit, Captain Mercer whispers to himself as the coastline of Iran slowly appears on the horizon. Here we go. The first missiles of the war are seconds from launch. The coastline of Iran grows larger beneath Captain Daniel Mercer's wings. Dark mountains stretch along the horizon, barely visible under the pale glow of the moon. The cockpit vibrates softly as the Boeing F-180 Super Hornet cuts through the cold air at nearly 500 knots. Inside the helmet, Mercer hears nothing but breathing and the quiet stream of data from his avionics. Altitude, speed, target distance. Behind him, 20 more aircraft fly in. Discipline, formation, and entire strike package racing toward the Iranian coast. No navigation lights, no radio chatter, only silent machines crossing an invisible line that cannot be uncrossed. Below them, the black waters of the Persian Gulf give way to land. Iran. Mercer checks the targeting display again. Primary objective, an air defense command node outside Bandar Abbas. Destroy the radar, blind the coast, open the door for everything that follows. The plan is brutally simple. Strike first, strike hard, and hope the enemy cannot react fast enough. A quiet voice finally breaks the silence over the encrypted channel. Strike Alpha. Push time in 30 seconds. Mercer swallows. His heart pounds harder now. Training teaches pilots to stay calm, to treat war like a checklist. But no simulator prepares you for the moment a war actually begins. He glances left. Another Super Hornet slides through the darkness beside him, its pilot raising two fingers in a silent signal. 2 minutes. Mercer nods, even though the other pilot cannot see his face. Below, Iranian coastal radar stations sweep the skies. Operators inside concrete bunkers stare at glowing screens, watching the same empty darkness they have watched for years. Tonight, the screens begin to flicker. A radar technician frowns. Sir, we're getting interference. The officer beside him leans closer. Strange returns appear across the display small, fast-moving blips racing toward the coastline. Too many? Too fast. Confirm identification, the officer says sharply, but the system struggles to track them, because the aircraft approaching the coast are designed to be nearly invisible. Mercer's targeting system beeps softly. Target lock acquired. On his display, a radar installation appears in green wireframe antennas. buildings, missile batteries. All of it quiet. All of it unaware that death is already seconds away. Alpha strike. Weapons free. Mercer's thumb rests on the launch switch. His breathing slows. He presses it. A missile drops from the wing of his Boeing F-180 Super Hornet and ignites, streaking downward like a white spear of fire. Across the sky, dozens more follow. Cruise missiles, precision bombs, guided by satellites and lasers. The first explosions bloom across the Iranian coastline. Radar towers erupt into flames. Concrete bunkers collapse under the blast. And inside the command station, the radar officer finally understands what he is seeing. Not interference, not malfunction. The warning tone in Captain Mercer's headset is sharp and merciless. Missile lock. The cockpit of the Boeing F-180 Super Hornet suddenly feels smaller, tighter. The calm silence of the strike mission has vanished. Now the sky is alive. Mercer's radar screen fills with activity search radars igniting across southern Iran, air defense batteries coming online, tracking beams sweeping the darkness. Below him, the coastline near Bandar Abbas burns. Missile impacts ripple across the military complex. Secondary explosions flash like lightning across the desert. But Iran is responding faster than the planners hoped. Mercer hears a new voice over the encrypted radio. Alpha flight, SAM launch. SAM launch. Surface-to-air missiles. Mercer's instincts take over. Brake right. He slams the control stick sideways. The Super Hornet rolls hard, engine screaming as the aircraft dives into a violent turn. A thin streak of fire rises from the ground behind him. The missile climbs fast. Too fast. Mercer punches the countermeasure switch. Flares burst from the rear of the jet, brilliant white sparks, scattering into the darkness like falling stars. The missile chases the heat signature. For a split second, Mercer watches the glowing trail behind him. Then the missile veers away and detonates in the empty sky. The explosion flashes bright orange against the clouds. But more launches follow. Iranian air defense units across the coast are fully awake now. Radar dishes spin. Missile tubes rise. The sky fills with streaking trails of fire. Inside an underground command bunker outside Tehran, military officers gather around a massive digital map of the country. Red warning lights spread across the screen. Southern radar stations have gone dark. Satellite feeds show burning facilities. And unidentified aircraft are now deep inside Iranian airspace. One officer speaks the words none of them wanted to say. American strike aircraft. Another officer immediately issues the order. Activate national air defense. Scramble fighters. Back in the air, Mercer climbs through a layer of thin clouds. The mission plan says they should already be turning back toward the Persian Gulf, but something unexpected appears on his radar. Fast-moving contacts. Dozens of them. Approaching from the north, Mercer stares at the screen. They're too fast to be missiles, and too organized to be random radar noise. His wingman's voice cuts through the radio. Mercer, you seeing this? Mercer already knows what it is. Iranian fighter aircraft, likely F-14 Tomcat interceptors, racing south to meet the American strike group. The war has just escalated from a strike mission to an aerial battle over Iran. Mercer tightens his grip on the throttle. Fuel is limited. Weapons are limited. And now enemy fighters are closing fast. Alpha flight, Mercer says quietly over the radio. Looks like we're not leaving yet. Outside the canopy, distant lights begin to appear in the dark sky ahead. Enemy aircraft. The radar contacts close fast. Inside the cockpit of his Boeing F-180 Super Hornet, Captain Daniel Mercer watches the glowing symbols rush across the screen. Distance, 40 miles. Speed, high. Altitude, climbing. Enemy fighters. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, Iranian pilots are racing toward the strike group. Mercer adjusts his oxygen mask and steadies his breathing. The aircraft hums around him, engines roaring as the fighter climbs through thin clouds over southern Iran. His wingman's voice crackles in the headset. Multiple bandits. Looks like 2 squadrons. Mercer nods instinctively. That means at least 8 aircraft. Maybe more. Above them, the night sky is empty and cold. Below, scattered fires burn near Bandar Abbas, where American missiles struck only minutes earlier. The strike mission is supposed to be over, but war rarely follows the plan. Alpha flight, form defensive spread, Mercer orders. Behind him, the American fighters widen their formation across the sky, creating distance between aircraft. The tactic forces enemy pilots to split their attack. Mercer pushes the throttle forward. The Boeing F-180 Super Hornet surges ahead, afterburners igniting in a brilliant cone of blue fire. Then the first enemy radar locks on. A piercing tone fills the cockpit again. Bandits active, Mercer mutters. His radar finally paints them clearly. swept wings, large radar signature, older but dangerous aircraft, Iranian F-14 Tomcat fighters, once flown by American pilots decades earlier, now hunting them. Mercer feels the strange weight of history pressing down. Different flags, same machine. The distance shrinks rapidly, 30 miles. Suddenly, the radio explodes with warnings. Fox 3, missile away. One of the American fighters fires first. A long-range air-to-air missile tears through the sky toward the approaching formation. Seconds stretch like hours. Mercer watches the radar screen. One of the enemy aircraft breaks formation, diving sharply, but not fast enough. The missile detonates beside it. For a moment the sky flashes white. Fragments scatter across the radar display. One enemy aircraft disappears, but the rest keep coming. Now the Iranian pilots fire back. Mercer's radar screams again. Another missile launch, this time aimed directly at him. He jerks the stick left and dives hard. Clouds ripping across the canopy as the aircraft rolls violently. His stomach lurches under the crushing G-force. Outside the cockpit, a streak of fire cuts through the sky behind him. Mercer releases more flares. The missile races closer. Closer. Then, a thunderous explosion erupts just meters behind the jet. The blast shakes the aircraft violently. Warning lights flash across the control panel. Mercer grips the controls, fighting to keep the jet stable. For a terrifying second, he thinks the aircraft might break apart. But the fighter holds together. Barely. And when Mercer looks back up at the radar, he sees something. The sky above southern Iran is no longer silent. It is chaos. Captain Daniel Mercer steadies the shaking controls of his damaged Boeing F-180 Super Hornet as warning lights continue to blink across the cockpit panel. Hydraulic pressure fluctuates. Fuel consumption spikes. But the engines are still running. For now, Mercer pulls the aircraft back into a climb, forcing his breathing to slow while the radar sweeps the dark sky ahead. Enemy aircraft everywhere. His display shows multiple contacts closing from different directions. The surviving Iranian F-14 Tomcat fighters have split into attack groups, trying to surround the American formation. They know the advantage now. The U.S. strike aircraft are deep inside Iranian airspace, and far from the safety of the Persian Gulf. Mercer hears another voice over the radio, tight, controlled. Alpha to hit. I'm leaking fuel. A flash of fire erupts in the distance. One of the American jets trails smoke as it dives sharply away from the fight. Mercer clenches his jaw. There is no time to help. Every pilot here is fighting for survival. Suddenly his radar locks onto a target closing from the north. Fast, very fast. The computer highlights the contact. Enemy fighter. Distance, 12 miles. Mercer turns hard toward it. The sky ahead looks empty, but he knows the other pilot is out there somewhere, hidden in the darkness. Both aircraft hunting each other. Two predators circling in the night. His targeting system chirps softly. Lock acquired. Mercer finally sees him. A dark silhouette cutting through the clouds. Swept wings. Twin vertical tails. Another F-1 for Tomcat. For a brief moment, the two fighters pass almost directly toward each other. Two pilots. Two nations. Two machines built for war. Mercer presses the trigger. Fox 2. An infrared missile drops from his wing and ignites instantly. Racing toward the enemy jet. The Iranian pilot reacts immediately, pulling into a violent climb and releasing flares. Bright sparks scatter through the sky. The missile chases the heat signature. Mercer watches the glowing trail twist upward. Then, a sudden flash. The missile detonates beside the Tomcat's engine. Flames erupt from the aircraft's rear fuselage. For a moment, the enemy fighter tries to hold altitude. Then it begins to spiral downward. Mercer feels no celebration, only silence. War reduces everything to seconds and decisions. But the fight is not over. His radar suddenly fills with new warnings. Multiple missile launches. More enemy aircraft are arriving from deeper inside Iran. And now something even worse appears on Mercer's display. A powerful long-range radar has locked onto the entire American strike group. A strategic air defense system, much stronger than the coastal batteries they destroyed. Somewhere ahead, a new threat has awakened. And Mercer realizes they may have just flown directly into the center of Iran's air defense network. The warning tone changes. It is deeper now, more urgent. Inside the cockpit of his battered Boeing F-180 Super Hornet, Captain Daniel Mercer instantly recognizes the signal. This is not a fighter radar. This is something far more powerful. A strategic air defense system. His display lights up with a new symbol blinking across the screen far inland from the burning coastline near Bandar Abbas. Mercer whispers under his breath. Not good. Hundreds of miles away, deep inside Iran's military network, A radar dish slowly rotates atop a hardened mountain facility. It belongs to the S-300, a system designed for one purpose: destroy high-value aircraft before they can escape. The radar locks onto the entire American strike formation. 20 aircraft, all suddenly visible. Inside Mercer's headset, the warning receiver begins to scream. Alpha flight, NUSAM system active. Someone shouts. Mercer glances at the range indicator. The missile battery is still far away, but its reach is enormous, far larger than the coastal launchers they already dodged. The voice of the strike leader cuts through the radio. All aircraft evasive route Delta. Head south now. Mercer immediately banks his Boeing F-180 Super Hornet toward the south, engines roaring as he dives toward lower altitude. Below him, the dark terrain of Iran races past jagged mountains, empty desert valleys, faint highways glowing under scattered streetlights. But escaping will not be easy. The S-300 radar suddenly switches from tracking to firing mode. Mercer hears the unmistakable alert. Missile launch detected. Far in the distance, several white streaks rise into the night sky. Long-range missiles. Fast, very fast. The sky fills with panic. Multiple launches. Break formation. Go low. American jets scatter across the darkness as pilots dive, turn, and release countermeasures. Mercer pushes his aircraft down toward the mountains, the altimeter spinning as he drops below 5,000 feet. The missile trails climb high above him, searching, but the radar continues tracking. Another pilot screams over the radio. Missile on me. Missile on. The transmission ends in static. Mercer glances back just in time to see a distant fireball bloom in the sky. One American aircraft disappears in a flash of light. Silence follows. No one speaks. The reality settles in slowly. The first American pilot of the war has just been lost. Mercer tightens his grip on the controls as he races south toward the Persian Gulf. But the radar warning receiver continues screaming, because more missiles are already climbing through the darkness, and Mercer's damaged fighter may not be fast enough to outrun them. Captain Daniel Mercer pushes the nose of his Boeing F-180 Super Hornet even lower, 2,000 feet, then 1,500. The mountains of southern Iran rush past beneath him like black waves in the darkness. Flying this low at night is dangerous even in peacetime. In combat, with a damaged aircraft and missiles hunting overhead, it borders on suicidal, but it may be the only way to survive. Above the clouds, the radar from the S-300 still searches for targets. Those missiles are designed to destroy aircraft flying high and fast. Down here, among the mountains and valleys, the terrain itself becomes Mercer's only shield. His breathing is steady now. Training has taken over. Altitude, heading, terrain warning. He watches the landscape carefully through the green glow of night vision sensors. Sharp ridgelines rise suddenly from the desert. A single mistake, and the jet will slam into rock at nearly 600 miles per hour. The radio crackles again. Alpha flight, status check. Mercer hears several voices answer, fewer than before. Some aircraft have already escaped south toward the Persian Gulf. Others are still trapped deeper inside Iran. Then his wingman speaks. Mercer, you've got company. Mercer glances at his radar. A single fast-moving contact appears behind him, closing quickly. Too quickly. Even at low altitude, he immediately recognizes the speed profile. An interceptor. Another F-14 Tomcat. The Iranian pilot has followed him down into the mountains. Mercer exhales slowly. Most pilots avoid dogfighting this low. There is no room for error. But the enemy pilot seems just as determined. The radar distance shrinks. 5 miles. 4. Mercer finally sees him. A dark aircraft slicing through the valley behind him, its wings cutting through thin clouds. The Iranian fighter is closing from the rear quarter. Perfect firing position. Mercer knows what comes next. A missile, or cannon fire. He grips the controls tighter. If the enemy fires now, there will be almost no time to react. Then the radar warning tone shrieks again. Missile launch. Mercer slams the throttle forward and pulls the jet into a brutal climbing turnaround. A jagged mountain ridge. The aircraft groans under the force. Flares burst behind him like sparks in the night. The missile streaks closer. Closer. Mercer can almost feel it chasing the heat of his engines. The valley ahead narrows suddenly into steep rock walls. A deadly trap. But Mercer makes a desperate decision. Instead of climbing, he dives straight into the canyon. The Boeing F-180 Super Hornet screams through the narrow passage only a few hundred feet above the ground. The missile follows. For a moment it seems unstoppable. Then, the guidance system loses track in the twisting terrain. The missile slams into the canyon wall behind Mercer, erupting into a violent explosion. The shockwave rattles the aircraft, but Mercer is still alive. He pulls the jet back up toward open sky. The canyon opens suddenly into a wide desert valley. Captain Daniel Mercer pulls the nose of his battered Boeing F-180 Super Hornet upward, climbing just enough to clear the jagged ridges ahead. The aircraft trembles violently. Hydraulic warnings flash again across the control panel. His jet is wounded. Another hard maneuver might tear something critical apart, but behind him, the Iranian fighter is still there. Mercer glances at the radar. Distance, less than 1 mile. Too close. Through the canopy reflection he finally sees it clearly, another F-14 Tomcat slicing through the valley directly behind him. The enemy pilot has followed him through the canyon. Fearless, or desperate, Mercer imagines the man in that cockpit. Another pilot gripping the controls. Another human being fighting for his country. War reduces everything to seconds and survival. Nothing else matters now. The Tomcat edges closer. Mercer suddenly sees brief flashes from the aircraft's nose. Cannon fire. Tracers rip through the air around him. Several rounds slam into Mercer's left wing, tearing metal and scattering fragments into the darkness. The jet shudders violently. Warning alarms scream inside the cockpit. Flight control damage. Mercer's hands tighten on the stick. If the wing fails, the aircraft will spin apart instantly. But Mercer still has one advantage: speed. He slams the throttles forward. Afterburners ignite with a violent roar. The Boeing F-180 Super Hornet surges ahead across the open desert. The coastline of the Persian Gulf is finally visible far ahead. Just a few more minutes. If he can reach open water, American naval aircraft and radar coverage will protect him. But the Iranian fighter is still firing. More tracers flash past the cockpit. Mercer makes one final, dangerous move. He abruptly cuts throttle and rolls the jet into a brutal high-G turn. The maneuver forces the pursuing F-14 Tomcat to overshoot. For a split second, the two aircraft cross paths only a few hundred meters apart. Mercer immediately locks his radar. Target acquired. His last missile is still armed. He whispers quietly, "Fox 2. The missile launches and races across the short distance. Before the enemy pilot can react, a brilliant explosion lights the night sky. The Tomcat erupts into a fireball that slowly spirals toward the desert floor. Mercer watches for only a second. No victory, no celebration, just silence. He turns his damaged aircraft south and finally crosses the dark waters of the Persian Gulf. Behind him, the Iranian coastline burns from the earlier strike. Radar stations destroyed. Aircraft lost on both sides. And across the world, news alerts are just beginning to flash across television screens. The first air battle of the war has already been fought. And Captain Mercer knows something every pilot eventually learns. This was only the beginning, because once the first shots of a war are fired, there is no easy way to stop what comes next.